the 7th year of being together with Shang Song, he encountered his destined Omega. Everyone declares that I am the fortunate one who has tamed Shang Song's instinct to love. He believes this too, boasting with pride. So what if Su-young is a beta? My heart belongs solely to him. Yet, there are exceptions to every rule and some things are predestined. However, I ultimately require a child. He drew the young and handsome Omega close, teasingly remarking, "You are youthful and fertile. I can reluctantly accept you. After 7 years of marriage, it took me merely 7 days to detach myself. On the day of my departure, the weather was splendid, and my spirits were equally high. As usual, I helped Shang Song with his tie, smiling as I sent him off. Yet this time I refrained from saying, 'I will await your return home.' 1. On the eve of Shang Song's sensitivity period's conclusion, I did not remain at home, silently awaiting his return. Instead, I stealthily ventured to his exclusive club. Shang Song, a quintessential alpha, always endures the intensity of his sensitivity period here. He harbors concerns about potentially harming me. While I am delighted that he considers my well-being, I also worry about his physical state. I have exerted considerable effort to embrace all facets of him. This time, I arrived a day early to share some good news with him. The suite was unoccupied, the bed in disarray. The soft, smooth sheets and blankets were peculiarly sticky. Yet, I found no surprise in this. An alpha during the sensitivity period is invariably vigorous and must find release. A stranger, tasked with tidying the room, pointed me in the right direction. "Are you also a friend of the host? They are gathering on the top floor." Upon reaching the upper level of the club, I was greeted by the clinking of glasses and dim lighting. I lingered in the shadows of the entrance, somewhat bewildered. Most of the attendees were familiar faces, friends of Shang Song, though some were unknown to me. I noticed a youthful, demure boy who had been closely following Shang Song. He appeared quite young, likely still in university. Suddenly, an array of scents enveloped me. Neither smoke nor alcohol nor perfume, but rather an unfamiliar blend of sweet and aggressive pheromones, fluctuating in intensity and proximity. I could not discern which scent belonged to Shang Song amidst the chaos. It was overwhelming and disorienting. I raised my hand to cover my mouth and nose. Someone jested, "Song-go, you're already 30 and have only just encountered your destined Omega, who has just turned 20. How does that feel?" Another chimed in the past, he had to endure 3 days during his sensitivity period. But this time he has relished it for a day and a night. Perhaps he will become infatuated with the Omega? A rebuttal followed. But Song-go is a romantic at heart, only cherishing the ordinary beta at home. Their tones and expressions conveyed playful banter. Shang Song raised an eyebrow, swirled the red wine in his glass, and downed it in one gulp, tossing the empty cup at the speaker with a casual, "Don't speak nonsense." I retreated, leaning against the wall, fixated on the scattered, ambiguous glimmer of light spilling from the doorway, unwilling to witness his expression. Shang Song seemed in high spirits, conversing more freely than usual. "What does it matter that Su-young is a beta? My heart belongs solely to him." The words pierced my ears, provoking an itch within, as if ants were crawling beneath my skin. He continued, "Having an Omega during the sensitivity period is indeed delightful and swift, but that is all it is. The concept of destiny holds little weight. The only reason I keep him is that I am 30 now and should be considering children. My beloved simply cannot bear them." Hidden in the shadows, I turned my head heavily, stealing a glance at my beloved. He drew the innocent, almond-eyed Omega into his embrace, gently patting his cheek. "You are young and fertile. I can reluctantly accept that. Even if I accidentally mark you, it won't be a significant issue. This way I won't be so irritable, and Su-young won't suffer, his body in pain." The Omega nestled obediently in his arms, nodding gently, eyes brimming with adoration, inhaling Shang Song's scent deeply. "I will listen to my brother, too." His friends laughed and teased him. "So obedient? You are his destined mate. Song-go will only savor the taste, something a beta cannot compete with. You can afford to be a bit spoiled." Fortunately, his partner is a beta. Even if Song-go does mark Shirlu, he won't be aware of it. Moreover, after marking, only his Omega will be able to sense Song-ji's pheromones. "What if he finds out?" someone inquired. Shang Song, picking up another glass, swirled it slowly, a sardonic smile creeping across his lips. "Then I will only consult you." The room fell abruptly silent, an oppressive atmosphere settling in. Soft, Soothing instrumental music wafted through the air. The Omega cautiously grasped Shang Tsung's fingertips, looking innocently at him. "Brother, I'm a little scared." Shang Tsung chuckled softly, tapping the tip of his nose. Taking a sip of red wine, he bowed his head, letting it meld with the Omega's lips. "With such a timid disposition, how dare you approach me?" The merriment resumed. The Alpha who had once declared I was his sole love now shared a kiss flavored with red wine with an Omega 10 years his junior. I, merely a beta, understood little of destiny and had no desire to confront them. My fingers trembled slightly as I retrieved a strip of pills from my pocket, labeled "not for sale." I gripped it tighter, the sharp edges digging into my flesh. Yet, I felt no pain, just as I had come silently. I turned, departing quietly once more. As I passed the trash can, I raised my hand and discarded the pills. 3. Shang Tsung remained outside for 3 full days, yet he did not neglect to contact me. He had called me via voice message. Through the phone, his breath was ragged, heavy, just as he would sound when enduring the throes of his sensitivity period. No matter how difficult it became, he would always video call me upon waking each day, asking about my daily activities, what I had eaten, how I felt, and whether I missed him. This time, he opted for a voice message instead of a video call. I clicked to switch to video chat, waiting a considerable time before Shang Tsung finally answered. He lay in bed, his back propped against a tall pillow, dressed in a bathrobe and drenched in sweat. Veins bulged on his forehead, and bloodshot lines crept across his eyes. He appeared to be in great discomfort yet maintained a composed gaze as he looked at me. "Darling, do you miss me?" "I miss you too. Just wait a little longer. I will be home tonight." My eyes roamed the small screen, scanning his features, from his brow to the edges of the camera. Shang Tsung remained still, yet the corner of the blanket at the bottom left trembled slightly, a rapid, subtle movement. I closed my eyes, suppressing all emotions, forcing a smile. "You seem less disheveled than before." I sought to provide both myself and Shang Tsung an opportunity to speak the truth, to part ways with dignity. "Is this sensitivity period milder than usual?" Shang Tsung paused for a brief moment before conjuring an excuse. "I've switched to a stronger suppressant. It is somewhat better." I felt a flicker of disappointment, merely a hint of coldness washing over me. Yet I still inquired, "Then why not come back? I can help you." I had uttered this sentiment countless times before. However, Shang Tsung always insisted I could not comprehend the horror of an alpha's sensitivity period. He did not wish to harm me, never allowing me to appear before him in such a state. He would say, "It's fine on video, but if you were here with me, I genuinely fear I would consume you whole." He seemed to be recovering yet lingered in his current state. "Darling, I am not fully restored. Your scent drives me mad." "I am a beta, devoid of pheromones," I replied coolly. "But I find you irresistibly fragrant, a scent that captivates my very soul." He gazed at me with a smile, coaxing, "Be good. I will return tonight. I will bring you a gift to make amends for having left my dear darling behind." I was indeed unhappy, allowing him to misconstrue my feelings. I ended the video call, staring out at the garden through the floor-to-ceiling windows. It was filled with red and blue forget-me-nots, a single variety, though some freshly bloomed red flowers had yet to turn blue. These flowers were planted by Shang Tsung and me on our wedding day, as we both cherished the flower's symbolism of eternal love. Yet, it now seemed evident that no flower blooms forever, nor does eternal love exist. Perhaps it was time for me to leave and make room for someone else. The center sent me a text message. I scheduled my next physical examination and clinical trial for the day after tomorrow. After much contemplation, I ultimately acquiesced. Although I had refrained from taking the medication, the examination was still a necessity. Shang Tsung, a quintessential alpha, had persevered for a decade for the sake of a beta. In this vast empire he had built, not a single heir existed to inherit his legacy. Guilt enveloped me, yet I could not bear the thought of Shang Tsung having children with another. Thus, since the end of last year, I have been exploring various means to alter this fate. I have a friend, an alpha, who works at the Differentiation Research Center. I inquired about many things, such as whether a beta truly cannot conceive, and what could be done to achieve pregnancy. She informed me that the center had been researching a transformation drug, which was now in the clinical trial phase. It might take several years before it could reach the market, and the medication regimen would require 1 to 2 years. She asked if I could wait. I could not. I yearned desperately to have a child with Shang Tsung. Thus, I propose to participate in the clinical trial. It has been 6 months. Recently, I have occasionally detected certain scents, and my nape has experienced moments of warmth and itchiness. Even internally, it seems as if subtle changes are occurring, as if atrophied glands and dormant embryos are beginning to sprout anew, awaiting their time to blossom. Before the discovery of Shang Tsung's infidelity, I reveled in these daily, minute transformations, but that was the end of it. He need not endure any longer. I need not strive for transformation any further. We shall both return to our original paths. He will lead his life among the elite, while I will continue my mundane existence. Shang Tsung returned home before 6, cradling a beautifully wrapped bouquet of forget-me-nots. He also brought back a set of exquisite blue and white porcelain teaware, which I recognized as an ancient set unearthed recently. When I had seen the reports, these teawares were encrusted with dirt, bearing the marks of time. I have a fondness for porcelain and casually mentioned it to Shang Tsung. Even when covered in dust, this tea set is quite beautiful. He smiled silently, and today, he presented the tea set before me with a hint of pride, claiming, "Your husband is quite remarkable, isn't he?" He gestured to his lips. "Darling, shouldn't you reward me promptly?" I gazed at his crimson lips, but the image of the previous night, stained with red wine, flashed before my eyes, inducing a wave of nausea. I hurriedly turned away, placing the tea set on the coffee table. We are an old married couple. There is no need for such frivolities. It's time to eat. Presumably already satiated, Shang Tsung did not press further. He arranged the forget-me-nots in the most conspicuous spot before wrapping his arms around my waist. "How did you know I hadn't eaten?" he inquired, leaning down to plant a gentle kiss on my nape. "Darling, I even skipped work to return and have dinner with you." It seemed he had made considerable sacrifices, yet I could no longer be moved. I smiled bitterly. "Oh really? That sounds quite arduous." The table was laden with delicacies, yet I found no pleasure in the meal. In the days following the sensitive period, Shang Tsung was perpetually busy. The company had accumulated a plethora of tasks awaiting his attention. He rose early, and I adhered to the routine of rising alongside him. I would assist him in tying his tie and bid him farewell as he departed. I did not hold a job. Ever since Shang Tsung seized control of the Shang family, he forbade me from working. My previous profession was that of a ceramic artist. In my youth, I lacked the means to pursue higher education, completing only high school. I apprenticed under a master craftsman in a narrow alley. When I triumphantly returned home with my first handmade pot, I collided with the disheveled Shang Tsung, shattering it to pieces. Before I could muster any anger, he had collapsed into my arms, resembling a clumsy con artist. The shattered pot brought forth a significant inconvenience. He was an illegitimate child, embroiled in a power struggle fierce and ruthless. He lingered in my modest rental apartment for 3 years, consuming my resources while incessantly seducing me, claiming that I had aided him and that he could repay me in kind. Though I was skeptical, I did not refuse him. He was far too handsome, and his physique was undeniably captivating. I was entranced by his form. To put it bluntly, how many betas could claim to have shared a bed with such a striking alpha? I could boast about it for a lifetime. Eventually, his adversaries caught up with him. I took a bullet for him, injuring my right hand. Since then, whenever I shaped clay, my hand would tremble uncontrollably. The porcelain I crafted was never perfect. Shang Tsung would watch me, tears streaming down his face, lamenting, "I am so sorry for ruining your dreams." Later on, he succeeded in his endeavors, presenting me with a bouquet of forget-me-nots and proposing, declaring that he was offering himself to me. I felt as though a massive pie had fallen from the heavens, threatening to crush me. I married in a daze and moved into a grand residence, feeling that my life was worth it even without exerting effort. Thus, I lived with Shang Tsung for 7 years, only to suddenly realize that human desires perpetually expand. With love and marriage, wealth and leisure, I still longed for an unchanging, eternal devotion. Such greed! I should not have forgotten that my name signifies mediocrity. Awakening from my reverie, I groggily assisted Shang Tsung in selecting a tie for the day. As per usual, I carefully tied it for him. The color scheme of today's tie did not quite complement his suit, but he remained oblivious. He bent down to embrace me. "I'm off to work. Wait for me to return." I gently pushed him away. "Safe travels." I did not utter the words "wait for you to come home again." I would not wait for him any longer. The following day, I visited the differentiation center. I had several vials of blood drawn and underwent examinations of the glands and abdominal ultrasound. Lu Yong remarked that my condition was promising, with traces of pheromones detected in my blood. Soon, I would be able to stabilize my pheromone production. She inquired if I had noticed any changes recently. I nodded. She smiled as she examined the ultrasound images, pointing out the clearly defined cystic structure in the center. Development is underway here. Within a year, you'll be able to fulfill your desires and commence preparations for pregnancy. I observed in silence for a moment, struggling to recall the anticipation and excitement I had felt just days prior. I chuckled softly. No, I have already disposed of the differentiation medication. Lu Yong appeared puzzled but not angry. She calmly placed the examination report on the table and hesitantly asked, "Why have you suddenly stopped?" I reminded you that the differentiation process is irreversible. Discontinuing the medication now means that the characteristics you have already manifested will not vanish. Though it will not progress further, you cannot return to your previous state. I was well aware of this. From the outset of the trial, Lu Yong had cautioned me repeatedly. At that time, my heart was set solely on having a child and spending my life with Shang Song, never contemplating any alternatives. Yet, life is unpredictable. Even the most trusted partner can, in a fleeting moment, betray that trust. I opened my mouth and replied calmly, "My spouse has encountered his destined omega." Lu Yong paused for a moment, then sighed deeply. While I would like to say that the attraction between alpha and omega is innate, and that destiny is a matter of chance, it does not mean your husband is justified in his actions. She picked up a pen and began writing in the trial logbook, marking my name with red ink. Trial interrupted. Fortunately, it is not too late to mitigate the losses. Su-yong, go be yourself. Regardless of your beliefs, betas are freer than alphas and omegas. I stood up, offering her sincere apologies and gratitude. The trial was complimentary. I provided her with data, and she offered me her unwavering support. I owed her an apology for terminating the trial so casually. I possess few friends, and Lu Yong is one of them. She was my classmate in high school, and we serendipitously crossed paths at a pottery exhibition. She is also the only friend I invited to my wedding. After marrying Shang Song, I found that the omegas in high society looked down upon me. The alphas have all flocked to flatter Shang Song, daring not to approach me. The betas regard me with utmost respect, casting envious glances in my direction. Shang Song remarks that this is for the best, allowing me to focus solely on him. It seems my world has been reduced to Shang Song alone. Without him, I am left with nothing but myself. Unconsciously, I find myself at the alley where I first encountered Shang Song. As I walk deeper, the alley has undergone a transformation. The pottery shop has vanished, replaced by an elegant bar. The setting sun casts a golden hue, and the bar is already bustling with noise. I have no desire to drown my sorrows in alcohol, ignoring the pangs of nostalgia that accompany the realization of how things have changed. I turn to leave when suddenly a young man in a waiteress uniform bursts out of the bar, his face flushed and breath hot. In the instant he collides with me. A strong, suffocating scent of peach fills my nostrils. He stumbles away, swiftly turning the corner. A group of drunken blonde alphas follows closely behind, cursing. Damn, that little omega runs fast. We almost had him. No worries, he's under the influence of an aphrodisiac. Weak in the knees, he won't get far. One of them raises his chin towards me. Hey, did you see an omega? Which way did he go? Another leans closer, nostrils flaring. Are you a beta or an omega? You seem to have a hint of fragrance. My heart races and I point to the left. That way. After confirming I possess no pheromones, they rush down the left path. A sense of dread washes over me, and I pat my chest. I finally comprehend what Lu Yong meant by freedom. Somewhat uneasy, I follow the scent of the peachy omega. I walk to the end of an alley. It is only then I realize that this sweet aroma is somewhat familiar to me. Though I have only caught a whiff once, the memory is vivid. I halt at the corner, listening as hurried footsteps approach the omega. The omega crashes into someone's embrace, muffled sobs escaping. Brother Shang Song, I've been induced into heat. Please help me, sob. Shang Song's tone carries a hint of anger. Didn't I tell you to quit that damn job? Is being a companion so appealing? The omega weeps pitifully, words tumbling out. I don't want your money. I have my pride. I can earn my own, and I'm not a companion. Shang Song grinds his teeth, his footsteps growing heavier. Then what are you doing with me? I lower my head, pondering. I open my phone camera and discreetly record the scene. Still unsatisfied, I lean out to glimpse their figures. Shang Yan cradles the Omega, moving swiftly, his pace heavy. The Omega, upon hearing the question, lifts his head from Shang Yan's embrace, eyes glazed as he clumsily kisses Shang Song, affectionately declaring, "I like you, brother. I like you so much." Shang Yan pauses, adjusting his hold on the Omega, pressing him against the wall. He grips his chin and kisses him fiercely. Such a foolish and pitiable little thing. Their lips entwine, the sound of their kiss echoing in the air. I hide in the shadows, staring blankly at the video on my phone. Suddenly, my phone screen is wet. One drop, then two, blurring the image. I look up, the sky clear and bright, yet it is my eyes that are raining. I catch a whiff of Shang Song's pheromones. It is a scent I know well. In the back garden, the air is filled with that floral aroma. No wonder when I mention my fondness for forget-me-nots, Shang Song smiled like a cat that had stolen a treat. When I asked him what was amusing him, he remained silent, merely kissing me deeply, remarking on my discerning taste. It is no surprise that when he proposed, he presented me with a bouquet of forget-me-nots, proclaiming himself as a gift to me. I have brewed forget-me-not tea before. While initially bitter, it leaves a sweet aftertaste if savored. Unlike its floral scent, the bitterness clogs my tongue. On my way home, a call from Shang Song interrupts my thoughts. His voice is heavy, tinged with regret. "Darling, work has piled up too much. I'll need to work late tonight. I'll rest in the company lounge. So eat well and don't wait for me. Once I'm done, I'll make it up to you." I tug at my lips, softly affirming. Perhaps it's for the best that he doesn't return. Maintaining the facade is exhausting. I know I should be more carefree, indifferent, and walk away with my belongings. But I am merely an ordinary person. I can only withdraw bit by bit. I sold all the luxury items and antique porcelain Shang Song gifted me. It amounted to a considerable sum, one I had never encountered before. Shang Song had provided me with a bank card for my use, yet I have always been frugal, unsure of how to spend such a large amount. It is only now that I feel a sense of loss. I am not so noble as to leave Shang Song after 7 years without a second thought. My youth may not hold great value, but it is not entirely worthless either. I transferred nearly 10 million to Lu Yong. Lu Yong called me and I explained half is for the previous experimental expenses, and the other half you will give me later. Lu Yong understood I was preparing for the future and did not press further. The Omega S heat cycle aligns closely with the Alpha S sensitivity period. Shang Song returns 3 days later, clad in a suit I have never seen. His tie slightly askew, holding a gift box. Inside is a Vacheron Constantine watch. He hands the box to me, embracing me intimately. Exhausted, he murmurs, "I missed you so much. 3 days of back-to-back work has left me drained. I need you to recharge me." I close my eyes, my heart aching with a sharp pang. How composed must one be to emerge from an Omega S bed and embrace me without a hint of hesitation? Is this innate ease a trait of alphas? Cannot know. I can only pretend to be oblivious, breaking free from that seemingly warm yet painfully sharp embrace. "If you're tired, you should rest early." Shang Song loosens his tie, somewhat displeased. "It's been so long since we've been intimate. Don't you miss me?" I pause, raising the corners of my lips as I begin to remove his outer coat. "Shall I help you shower?" Shang Song's lips curl upward, and he suddenly remembers something, pausing abruptly. He teasingly brushes my nose, jesting, "Forget it. Your husband is too tired and needs to rest well. In a few days, I promise to pamper my little glutton." I gaze at his fingertips, my lips drooping. What does he mean by tired? Clearly, he bears the marks of many wild cats. Shang Song notices my discontent and tries to appease me. "In a couple of days, there's a porcelain art exhibition. I've secured 2 invitations. I'll accompany you." I force a smile, lacking enthusiasm. "Do you have time? I can go alone." Shang Song entwines his fingers with mine, pulling me to the sofa. "Of course I have time. Otherwise, why would I work so hard? Isn't it to create space to spend more time with my darling?" I look at him in silence, pondering whether he believes his own words. However, it is meaningless. It would only lead to further conflict. Suddenly, I say, "Shang Song, do you know what I despise the most?" Shang Song chuckles, lifting my hand to kiss my palm. "Can't possibly be me." I smile, enunciating each word. "I detest liars." He assumes I am pressuring him to accompany me and responds in a gentle manner. "I'm not lying. I genuinely will accompany you." He raises his hand, swearing, to lie to you would be a dog's deed. Such ephemeral vows. The heavens must hear them 1,000 times each day. There is no time to punish each deceiver. I withdrew my hand and gently pushed him. Go rest. For several consecutive days, I had not caught a whiff of Shang Tsung's pheromones. I could not discern whether the fragrance of forget-me-nots was simply too overwhelming or if my sense of smell had faltered during these days. On the day of the exhibition, the reason became apparent. The venue was teeming with alphas and omegas. I detected a concealed, chaotic melange of pheromones, lingering at the tip of my nose, refusing to dissipate. Among them, there was neither the sweet essence of peaches nor the delicate aroma of forget-me-nots. Indeed, Shang Tsung had set aside his work to accompany me. Here, he had an encounter with that omega. A name tag hung around his neck, boldly displaying the characters Shirlu. His short hair was fresh, and his round eyes exuded innocence. When he bowed to greet, the nape of his neck revealed a conspicuous mark, a ring of orderly bite marks. Although I am not an omega, I possess a basic understanding of such matters. He had been permanently marked. Therefore, he bore no scent and had no fear of being in a gathering of alphas, nor the dread of suddenly going into heat and disrupting the exhibition. Upon spotting him, Shang Tsung's footsteps faltered momentarily, but he quickly regained his composure and resumed exploring the exhibition with me. However, midway through, he mentioned a need to visit the restroom. Instinctively, I followed, trailing at a distance. I watched as he pulled Shirlu into a corner, admonishing him. Conceal your little thoughts. Don't think that because I have marked you, you can act with impunity. If Su Yong finds out, even if you are my destined omega, I can still have you erase that mark. Shirlu looked quite aggrieved, innocently retorting, our school organized volunteers, and there are credits to earn. I had no idea you would be here. As he spoke, he choked back tears. You never told me anything. Why do you always think that way about me? He pushed past Shang Tsung and darted out, brushing shoulders with me. Shang Tsung stood frozen for a moment, inhaling deeply before stepping out to meet my gaze. He appeared momentarily stunned, his expression tinged with a hint of panic. Darling, when did you arrive? I shrugged, feeling apathetic to maintain the facade. I pointed in the direction Shirlu had fled. Aren't you going to chase after him? Shang Tsung was frantic. Let me explain between us. I waved my hand, interrupting him. It's all right. I can understand. He paused, bewildered. You can understand? Pondered, feigning the demeanor of one utterly in love, self-deprecatingly smiling. You need children. I cannot bear them. I can only accept you having children with an omega. Shang Tsung scrutinized me for a long while, a smile dancing on his lips. Is that what you think? What am I to you then? Can my feelings for you be so easily shared with others? I have nothing with him. He was irate. I remained perplexed as to what right he had to be angry. Ignoring his unreasonable outburst, I patted his shoulder. There's still half of the exhibition left to see. I'll take my leave. He remained rooted in place, unmoving for an extended moment. On the 6th evening after discovering Shang Tsung's infidelity, he and I engaged in a cold war. Throughout the day, he spoke but a single sentence to me. I will return to the room once you realize your mistake. I relished the freedom and sent him off. That night, I drafted a divorce agreement. On the 7th day, a message arrived from an unfamiliar number. When I reached the cafe, Shirlu was already there. He appeared calm and composed. I hear you can accept my presence? He sipped his coffee, lifting his chin, offering me a smile. There's no need for you to retreat as a strategy. You are merely an ordinary beta, while I am his destined omega. You simply enjoyed a decade's worth of advantages, monopolizing my alpha for 10 years. Even if you resist, he will inevitably return to my side. I remained silent. I had previously believed he was a reluctant participant, a pitiable child shackled by his traits. At the very least, he had never flaunted his superiority over me. Now it seemed that it wasn't a lack of desire but rather a disdain for my worthiness. I lifted my coffee, its heat stinging my fingers. Hesitating for a few seconds, I debated whether to douse him with it or drink it. In the end, I placed the coffee on the table, stood up, and slapped him twice across the face. Interfering in someone else's marriage is despicable. Engaging in repugnant acts and then flaunting it before me is utterly contemptible. Finally, Shirlu's demeanor shifted from serene to furious, his eyes ablaze. I turned on my heel and departed. I wish you both a lifetime of wretchedness together. I remained uncertain whether Lu would report Song. It mattered little. Upon returning home, I hastily packed my belongings, taking only my identification, leaving everything else behind. I dug up the forget-me-nots in the backyard and buried them in the soil. On the living room coffee table, I left a USB drive and the divorce agreement. I took a nighttime flight, transferring from plane to bus, and from bus to motorcycle, eventually returning to the place of my birth, Qingyun Mountain. Here, there are few alphas and omegas, nor any kin of mine. Yet, the old house they left for me remains intact, albeit overgrown with moss and mold. After 3 days of cleaning, the house began to feel somewhat lively once more. When Lu appeared before Song with a swollen face, Song felt a flicker of satisfaction. He thought to himself that Su Yong was merely posturing, secretly caring for him deeply. It was as it should be. Song had exerted tremendous effort to combat his instincts, to love Su Yong for a full decade. He had resisted countless temptations from omegas for Su Yong's sake. Why should Su Yong accept his relationship with Lu? Did that not imply that Su Yong did not care for him? He could not tolerate it. He was upset. Look, it had only been a day, and Su Yong could no longer contain himself. He paid no heed to Lu's appearance, humming a tune while cradling the forget-me-nots as he returned home. The house was empty, desolate. That morning, despite their Cold War, Su Yong had still tied his tie for him and bid him safe travels. He placed the forget-me-nots in the antique vase he had given to Su Yong. He called Su Yong, knowing he had no friends and nowhere to go. Surely he had gone to the mall to browse ceramics again. Yet his calls went unanswered. After 3 attempts, he noticed something on the coffee table. Upon discovering the divorce agreement, Song panicked. He didn't check the USB drive but rushed upstairs, finding Su Yong's clothes and belongings all present, not a single item missing. He breathed a sigh of relief, thinking Su Yong was simply sulking. A little coaxing would suffice to mend things, for he was easily appeased. He had nowhere else to go. It was only when he inserted the USB drive into his computer that he heard an audio recording of himself speaking at the club's top floor, sharing words with friends. He then watched a video of himself picking up Lu, who had been forced into heat, succumbing to the allure of pheromones and kissing him uncontrollably. Lastly, he read a text. Song, I can accept your relationship with others because I intend to withdraw. I have always said, I despise liars. You often claim that you love me by resisting your instincts. Thinking back, that statement also implies, your instincts do not love me. Let us sign the divorce agreement, and grant us all some dignity. Lastly, I detest forget-me-nots. Song's eyes turned red. No, I truly loved Su Yong. He loved his elegant brows and eyes, his pure smile, his tranquility while crafting pottery, and his bravery in shielding him from harm. Yet he was an alpha, encountering his destined omega during his sensitive period. In that fleeting moment, his mind erupted like a dazzling display of fireworks, leaving him dazed and entirely consumed by thoughts of uniting with his omega. This was a primal instinct that no alpha could resist. He felt utterly powerless, unwilling to err. Otherwise, he would have stumbled long ago, wouldn't he? Song dialed every number that could possibly connect him to Su Yong, only to discover that, apart from Lu Yong, no one else had any ties to Su Yong. He made his way to the differentiation center to seek out Lu Yong. Being an alpha herself, he believed she would comprehend his predicament. Yet, Lu Yong merely cast a fleeting glance in his direction, handing him a dossier filled with experimental records and medical reports. She remarked, when he desperately sought to bear a child for you, you opted for an omega to conceive your offspring. He did feel your pheromones once or twice, but it seems that was the extent of it. I have no idea where he has gone. Aside from changing his constitution, he has never reached out to me. Song gazed at the increasingly visible gestational sac on the ultrasound screen, his throat tightening. Had he known, he would have endured a little longer. Then he and Su Yong would have had a child together. Upon returning home, Song suddenly realized that the flowers in the backyard had vanished. The once glimmering ceramic jar, long left vacant, lay shattered without his knowledge. The unscented flowers he had hidden in the villa had completely disappeared. A week later, I ventured outside the mountains. While the mountains were serene and the air refreshing, I could craft ceramics there but lacked the means to fire them. Firing pottery requires high-temperature kills, and I feared I might inadvertently ignite the mountains. Additionally, I needed to purchase a new wheel, as the one left by my family had long become obsolete. I attempted to work with my hands but found myself clumsy. Coupled with my uncooperative hands, I was unable to produce aesthetically pleasing clay forms. An elder in the village mentioned he was heading to the city to procure supplies and kindly offered me a ride. I hopped onto a rattling tricycle and made my way to the city. After securing my supplies, I arranged for them to be delivered back to the mountains and browsed every pottery shop in town, inquiring whether there were local kilns. As dusk approached, I finally located one. A pottery studio run by a young man, nestled deep within an old alley. His kiln was situated on the outskirts. He warmly guided me to see it, his slightly protruding canines giving him an endearing appearance, and stated I was welcome to use it free of charge. There aren't many young people interested in this craft nowadays, so I'm thrilled to have someone to share the anticipation of waiting for the pottery to come out of the kiln. His words suggested he thought of himself as a middle-aged man. I chuckled, but you're still quite young. Weeks passed, and I produced 3 kills of rather unsightly pottery. Xiaojuan and I laughed heartily, our hands covered in gray dust. I apologize. It's been so long since I last worked with clay. No worries. Good things take time. I rotated my wrist, contemplating returning to gift these imperfect ceramics to the villagers. They were not particularly discerning and would likely praise my skills nonetheless. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was Shang Song. He frequently called, but the signal in the mountains was poor, so I often missed his calls. When I did manage to answer, he would simply ask when I would return home or express a desire to visit me. I would respond that I had already returned and requested he refrain from contacting me about anything other than the divorce. Today, his voice was thick with emotion as he said, "I'm leaving. Please come back." Upon hearing that I was heading to the city center to finalize the divorce, Xiaojuan kindly offered to drive me there. I attempted to decline, but he insisted, "You needn't feel burdened. I have to prepare for a personal exhibition over there anyway. It's on my way." He dropped me off at the marriage center and waited outside, smiling as he suggested, "Since you're here, why not take a look at my exhibition?" I found myself unable to refuse. Shang Song awaited me at the center's entrance, looking gaunt, his eyes sunken, and his demeanor oppressive. He inquired, "Is that an alpha?" I was uncertain. I had never sensed any pheromones and was under no obligation to answer his question. "That's none of your concern. Let us proceed with the dissolution of our relationship. It's best for both of us." Shang Song grasped my wrist, painfully kissing the scar on my arm. "Can we not dissolve it? I have severed my mark with Shi Lu. You can reconnect with my pheromones. Only let you sense them." The pheromones suddenly enveloped me, wrapping around me like a shroud. I shook off his hand and slapped him across the face, stepping back a few paces.
Cavern me knows, he coldly replied, "I am sorry."
"I'm not accustomed to pheromones. They are quite pungent. I've told you before, I despise deceit. If this is yet another ruse, I will be forced to resort to legal action." Shang Song's face paled in disbelief, as if he could not fathom that I would strike him. His lips trembled, and he tentatively proposed, "Can we at least remain friends? We could start anew. You could utilize me. You adore ceramics, and I could arrange exhibitions for you for a lifetime." Suddenly, I recalled the first ceramic jar I had crafted. It was not particularly beautiful, yet it was my favorite. Even if it shattered, I would gather the fragments and strive to mend it, adhering the pieces together with glue. At that time, despite his disdain, Shang Song had begrudgingly assisted me in repairing it with gold powder. The jar's unsightly exterior was adorned with a few shimmering gold streaks, unmistakably revealing its history of having been broken. It was neither visually appealing nor functional. "Shang Song, do you remember when we first met, and you shattered my jar? I later used it to hold the flowers you gave me. The flowers always withered so quickly. Eventually, I realized that, unbeknownst to us, the water in the jar had completely leaked out. Without roots, the flowers, devoid of moisture, could only wither. The jar, having been broken, could not hold water even if repaired. A disingenuous person, no matter how much they regretted, could never cleanse their stains. I no longer desire the jar, the flowers, or you." Shang Song's face turned ashen in an instant. Even if I managed to repair the jar, he excitedly pulled out his phone to show me a video of him gluing the jar back together. I glanced at it briefly before averting my gaze. "Can it truly be restored?" I replied coolly. Shang Song fell silent, numbly following me to complete the paperwork. The staff, unfazed, remarked, "Another AB couple. You're the ones who come for divorce the most, the ones who refuse to believe in fate. Why bother staying together? Shang Song shouted for them to be quiet, causing the staff to hastily expedite the process, handing us the divorce certificate. Shang Song stood like a statue, watching me leave with wide eyes. I did not linger, slamming the car door behind me as I departed. Since I was already there, I seized the opportunity to meet with Lu Yang over tea, inviting her to the exhibition as well. She declined, chuckling that she lacked my artistic flair and was preoccupied with experiments. She returned my money and wished me freedom. 3 days later, my bank account swelled with a considerable sum, money transferred from Shang Song. I was not so noble as to refuse it, promptly donating it to the village chief to fund road repairs. A week later, I accompanied Xie to his personal exhibition, only to discover he was the illustrious pottery master, Issei. Into the kiln, Issei. Out of the kiln, myriad colors, a phrase once spoken by my former pottery instructor. At that time, Issei was still a university student, always arriving and departing in a hurry. I seemed to have encountered him a few times, but we had never truly connected, my thoughts consumed by Shang Song. Xie, you're surprisingly low-key, I remarked. He chuckled lightly. There's nothing worth boasting about. He suddenly stated, the moment I saw you, I recognized you as my senior. My mentor mentioned your injury. I thought you would never craft pottery again. I smiled and shook my head, earnestly observing the colorful and varied pottery on display. Life need not be perfect, nor does porcelain. Art is not so harsh. Suddenly, a dispute erupted somewhere at the exhibition. As the person in charge, Xie naturally had to intervene, and I followed suit. At the entrance of the exhibition, Shi Lu, clad in his work uniform, was being forcibly dragged outside by Shang Song. Who permitted your presence here? Leave at once.
Shi Lu,
filled with indignation and grievance, was in tears. My mentor recommended me to come. What does it have to do with you? This is not even your exhibition. By what right do you expel me? Xie cast a glance at me before stepping forward. I apologize, but this is my exhibition. I kindly ask you to refrain from making a scene. Upon noticing me behind Xie, Shang Song released Shi Lu and stared at me in disbelief. He murmured, I knew you would come. Then, with a sense of grievance, he pointed at Xie. Are you here with him? His tone was one of indignation, laden with disdain. He is merely a beta. No matter how promising he is, he cannot surpass me. I couldn't help but smile abruptly. So this is how you perceive it. But I too am merely a beta. Shang Song hurriedly clarified, that's not what I meant. You are different. Su Yong. You are different. Different in what way? Simply because I once saved him. We are the same, Shang Song. Had it been anyone else, I would have saved them too. In the alley, my intention was to rescue Shi Lu, not to catch someone in the act. It just so happened that I discovered he did not require saving. Both Shi Lu and Shang Song were taken aback. I turned to Xie and said, Please handle this. I shall continue to peruse the exhibition. Xie nodded and I turned away. That was the last time I saw Shang Song. From then on, we parted ways, each finding our own joy. Epilogue. Shang Song, I could never reclaim Su Yong. After the divorce, I drowned in a haze of indulgence. Friends urged me to simply be with Shi Lu. After all, we were destined partners. I severed ties with them. Not long after, Shi Lu approached me, announcing his pregnancy. I assumed he intended to use the child as leverage to force me into a relationship with him. Coldly, I remarked, Give birth, and I will provide for you. As for the person, they can return to whence they came. Shi Lu smiled, trembled with laughter. How naive! I have already terminated the pregnancy. Someone like you does not deserve offspring. I gazed at him, his smile blooming like a flower, filled with resentment. If it weren't for his sudden appearance during my vulnerable period, I would never have lost Su Yong. It was all his fault. I wished I could strangle him. Yet, as his pheromones wafted through the air, my mind grew hazy. Shi Lu mockingly patted my face. You alphas are inherently contemptible, yet you pride yourselves on being sentimental, don't you? He left as well. I was left utterly alone. Epilogue. Xie, my master, often told me of a disciple who was my antithesis, one who pursued pure colors. He was perpetually dissatisfied with the porcelain he created. Yet, paradoxically, his porcelain sold the best. I always wished to converse with him, but he was perpetually accompanied by a tall man, never straying far from him. I was not oblivious to the situation, so I abandoned the thought of engaging him. Unexpectedly, nearly a decade later, he appeared alone in my shop. He inquired, "Boss, do you know where I can find a kiln?" I smiled and replied, "I do. I will fire your pieces for free." He was never one to shy away from trouble. Residing in Qingyun Mountain, working alone on numerous clay bodies, painting imperfect designs, then bringing them to me. He would gaze eagerly at the kiln, counting the seconds until the firing was complete. My master was indeed correct. He was truly pure. Whether in romance or while engaging in his passions, he remained untainted. I began to hope that one day he would direct such a gaze towards me. Not frequently, just occasionally. To achieve this, I dedicated 3 years, finally encouraging him to bravely take my hand as we crafted clay together, producing a set of our very own Langhong glazed porcelain, both tableware and tea sets. During this firing, I refrained from introducing any other colors. 2 years into our relationship, a tiny bean, no more than a few millimeters, nestled within Su Yong's belly. We were both dumbfounded. However, the doctor advised that he had not fully transitioned and was unsuitable for pregnancy, posing considerable risk. Su Yong wished to try. I was unwilling. To me, nothing was more important than him. I insisted he terminate the pregnancy. He cried and protested. That marked our first argument. I too wept, but instead of raising my voice, I quietly observed him. He ceased his outburst and obediently consumed the medication I offered. After that, every time I embraced him, I took precautions. My Su Yong was meant to smile, meant to shed tears only at specific moments. At all other times, I did not wish to witness his sorrow. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing and liking to support. Until we meet again in the next story.